We can check the YouTube link to see. All right. YouTube link. Okay, ma'am, we are live on YouTube. So, hello, viewers. If you're joining us for this, let's talk. Before you say yes again, we are so excited to have you here. This is round 2 because Montoya is doing great things, and we really wanted to not leave you out of the loop. And so tonight we're talking about, before you say yes again, this is for the ladies, okay? So if you're joining us live, you want to send a link to your lady friends, you want to invite any one of your girlfriends, your workmates, your colleagues, whatever, you want to share it with the ladies in your church group. Wherever, just share this YouTube link because exciting things are going to be happening here. We did have a talk a few weeks ago, and we're going to have another talk again with Montoya Moore. Montoya, we are so excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me once again.
Yes, so tell our viewers, our ladies who are joining us. In fact, ladies, if you're joining us, let us know where you're joining us from so we can give you a shout out. But Montoya, just tell our viewers a little bit about yourself, just a backdrop to you and what you're doing, and before we get into discussing what we actually here for.
I met you probably about 2 years ago. You had came to our church to speak about prayer, and I just thought your presence was so powerful, and I knew that I could learn something from you. So I asked if you had any type of mentorship programs, and you did. And so I joined your mentorship program. And from being in your program, we developed my core message about setting boundaries, changing your lifestyle if you had made poor choices in relationships, how to stand your ground on your boundaries and have a mindset change of where you want to go and how to live out your values and your morals.
Awesome. And so I'm excited. I've been excited too. It's been exciting working with you. And just for the sake of our viewers, welcome and just good evening. And if you join us from Facebook or YouTube, because I know we're live on YouTube tonight, we want to thank you for being here. And as I mentioned earlier on, it's a special night because we're officially celebrating the work that Montoya is doing that can have an amazing impact on the lives of women all around the world. It's a resource that she has created. I believe it's going to help many women make healthier, wiser, and more intentional choices moving forward. And so the title of this resource is Before You Say Yes Again. And you just heard a little bit from Montoya. We've been working together for the past 2 years, and she's doing amazing things. Montoya is a sexual wellness advocate. She's passionate about helping women to choose differently. And we all know that choosing or making decisions is actually something that we have to work on every day. It's never that I am this person and that's just it. It's a decision we make every day to choose differently. Her work is centered on helping women understand their value so they can establish healthy boundaries, make decisions, and align with who they are becoming or who they want to become. And so, again, tell us where you're joining us from. This evening, it's not about shame. We're not playing any shame games. We're not being judgmental. We're just about awareness, about healing, about growth, and learning how to choose differently. And so, Montoya, the last time we were together, we spoke about, you know, what brought the Before You Say Yes resource about. Now, we went into other things like, relationships and what sometimes prevent women from saying no, or why women say yes to things that they know it's not healthy for them. It's a struggle sometimes for us, whatever it is, whether it be by force, like literally externally, or whether it be, some kind of mental suppression maybe we may have sometimes, or we spoke about why we're struggling with relationship problems, and maybe that's not the real problem, but maybe we just have clarity problems. We spoke about boundaries. We looked at themes that are in your actual guide, and gave some advice to women. And this evening, for the ladies who are joining us, let's start with the title itself. Before you say yes again, why this conversation?
Because too many women are saying yes from a place of wounded. We end one relationship just to fall back into the same patterns of another relationship before going deep within to find out the why.
Mhm,
And I myself found myself in the same predicament.
mhm,
I had ended a marriage that lasted about 4 years, and I took a little hiatus, what I call my hiatus, for about 2.5 years. And in that process of sweeping out the house, making sure that there was something to fill it with, the Lord gave me what I believe is my ministry, to figure out my
mhm.
why I kept falling into these patterns of dysfunctional relationships.
Mhm. So, thanks for sharing that. Why I ask you why this conversation, right? But what made you feel women needed to hear this message now? Because you're talking from your personal experience, and you're trying to help women to choose differently. Why you think this before we say, yes again? Why this conversation, and what made you feel women needed to hear this message now?
This conversation is needed now because women are, like myself, are tired of surviving relationships. We want to promote healthy relationships, understanding, creating a safe space for our mate. And we have to understand why we chose the mate that we chose. And so I'm learning to choose better. So that's what this conversation is all about, choosing better.
Okay, and I want to ask something, right?
Sure.
When we say choosing better, sometimes it's always referred to maybe choosing another person, choosing a spouse. Can we talk about not just choosing better, choosing differently? What about choosing ourselves? Because a lot of times I think part of the issue that we have is that many of us, we choose other people, we put other people before ourselves. And I think before we can speak about, choosing different in terms of a spouse, we need to talk about how we choose ourselves. And if we actually choose ourselves, can we like talk about how that might influence when we don't choose ourselves, how that could influence how we actually choose a spouse?
I'm sure many women have been taught that saying yes makes them loving and loyal and desirable. But
Mm,
at what point are we choosing yes over our health, over self-care?
mm. Okay, so I know I want you to be relaxed, not too guided in the question, but let's talk about choosing ourselves. Let's talk about that for a moment. This is where I really want to go, because I think that a lot of the reasons why we sometimes choose someone who may not be good for us is because we have not yet recognized our own value.
Right.
It's because we have not chosen ourselves. And I think that may be something we want to talk to ladies about, as we're talking about before you say yes again. Because before I say yes again to a spouse, how about me saying yes to me and what's good for me and in terms of my value? And that's kind of why I want us to spend just a few moments here. Like, how do you think our lack of ability to, or our inability to recognize our own worth and our own value influence the type of spouse that we may choose?
I'm sorry, repeat the question one more time. I was distracted.
Yes, so I was asking about why, or maybe how our inability to choose ourselves or to recognize our value may actually influence the type of spouse that we choose. Like if I haven't chosen me in terms of knowing my value, understanding my worth, understand what I bring to the table, understand how my presence may transform a relationship, how does that influence maybe the type of spouse I choose? Because your guide is about saying yes.
Yes. Now, if we do not have the correct understanding of our value, we may accept someone that is what some people call beneath our standards
Mhm.
because, like, in my example, I'm divorced. I have children. So some high value man may say, why would I waste my time on someone's leftovers?
Mm.
So if you don't have that mindset that I'm a leftover, um, a high value man wouldn't want me, then you will set your standards higher to say, I am valuable. The most high God thinks I'm valuable. So I need to choose better. I need to choose someone that will accept me for one, who I am, my faults, because I'm going to be accepting of their faults and know that I can be his helpmeet, the word that we use all the time, making his surroundings better. And it does make us think or attach ourselves to a mate instead of being satisfied with being alone and just bettering your life for yourself.
Right, right. Because I think that's an important part of the conversation when it comes to your resource, because understanding worth and value, I think, really does influence. And
Yeah,
so we want to talk a little bit about we'll let the viewers know about your thing, your resource. But many women have been taught that saying yes makes them loving and loyal or desirable,
right,
right?
right.
At what point does saying yes now become a cost to a woman, like maybe for her peace and her identity or even her health? Because a lot of times we say yes, we say yes, we say yes at the expense of other things. And sometimes these things are very expensive. As I text you sometime last week, I remember responding to a message to you saying to you, peace is expensive. So
Yeah.
at what point, does that cost become way too high? Because we were taught that if we say yes, then we're loving, we're loyal, we're desirable, and so on. But sometimes it comes at a really high price. It could be your peace, it could be you losing your identity, it could even mean you suffering ill health. So talk to us about that. Like, at what point does that saying yes sometimes cost us, from your personal experience and the work that you're doing with women in that particular regard in terms of sexual wellness?
Well, if we end up saying yes
Mm-hmm.
when our when we're tired, so
Mm-hmm.
we're overextending ourselves. If we're end up saying yes when we really want to say no,
Mm-hmm.
it internally makes you question your own choices. Like, why do I keep making the wrong choice? That's not good for me. It makes me sometimes feel selfish to choose myself over the needs of someone else who they're choosing themselves to
Mm-hmm.
ask you to do something. So it can cause mental instability. It can make you feel double-minded. And like my current situation, I am very sleep deprived because I have said yes to too many mentorship programs, to too much extra work on my job, and taking over for my young adult children, um, trying to play God for them instead
Mm-hmm.
of allowing God to be God to them.
Wow, that's deep, because what you just did there was just tell us that our saying yes sometimes has nothing to do with a spouse, but the fact that we're saying yes to so many things. So we're losing our peace, we're sometimes losing our identity. We may even lose our health. And it doesn't always mean it has to do with somebody else. Again, has to do with me not valuing me enough to recognize what I need to be saying no to.
Yes. And being
Now,
okay with saying no.
yes. And so one of the things I realized about women, even last evening, I did speak at a wives club, and we're just talking about things like burnout and the fact that, women give so much of themselves to everyone else, taking care of everyone else at the expense of themselves. And so many times for a relationship to work, we literally like die. Now, when I speak on prayer, I do speak about dying to self, but that type of dying is not the healthy type of dying. It's a dying where we're giving up on our dreams, we're losing our identity, we're taking care of everybody else at the expense of neglecting us. When the word actually says, love your neighbor as yourself. But because of how we've been indoctrinated and cultured, so many of us are losing identity in relationships, whether it be in the relationships we're trying to make survive. It could be relationships with family, with children, as you mentioned there, with spouses and so on. So I think that's an amazing part of this conversation. But I want us to talk about you a bit because you've spoken openly about your own journey. Can you tell us, was there a moment when you realized, hey, you know what? Enough is enough? Because we have your resources entitled Before You Say Yes Again, Been There, Done That, and women want to choose differently. Was there a moment, a time in your own journey when you realize, you know what? I cannot continue to do this anymore. Something has to change. What was that moment like for you? Talk to us about that.
Well, growing up as a Seventh-day Adventist, we're taught to develop our own personal relationship with Christ. And I got to a point where I, after my fourth divorce, um, I and
You
taking
said
that
fourth,
my
fourth.
fourth,
So we want people to hear clearly because this
my
means
fourth
this woman
divorce.
is overqualified for the job she's one talking to
Yes.
you.
Yes. And I had to ask God, why, why? Why does this keep happening to me? I did choose self in the last marriage in not accepting adultery,
Mhm.
but how did I end up with a person who would commit adultery? And then taking the hiatus, but then meeting someone and not being able to stand on my morals and my values, allowing them to lead me astray from
Mhm.
my faith. And one day I'm like, God, why? Why do I keep doing this? And God simply told me, because you love your desires
Mm.
more than you love me.
My God.
So my journey is on deepening my walk with Christ
Hmm.
so that I can gain his discernment in the
Hmm.
people that I surround myself with so that they will not influence me or be an influence to me. I can influence them
Hmm.
to stand on those same morals and values.
So that point came for you after that fourth marriage ended. You're
Yeah,
like, enough is enough. So basically, what I'm taking or picking up from what you're dropping is that our own desires, and the word actually says it, he says every man is drawn away by his own lusts. And you're
right.
telling us that he revealed to you that you were being drawn away, you were finding yourselves in situations because your desires were stronger. Your desire for what you and I refer to as the big D was deeper than your desire for the big G, which is God.
Exactly. It was
Wow, that's
all me. I'm
self,
gonna say
always
again,
self.
it's not the enemy, it's the inner me. I cannot blame anyone but me. Yes, there was a man involved, but that man did not hold a gun to my head and say,
Right,
be in a relationship with me. It's
right,
what I chose.
right.
And no matter how much praying I did, no matter how much Bible study I did, no matter how many accountability groups I joined,
Mm-hmm.
I am a stubborn woman.
Mm.
I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And
Wow.
if God does not have control of that,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to choose
Whoever you,
separation from him,
yes, yes.
or
I mean,
what leads to separation.
I really do appreciate your honesty in taking ownership of decisions that you made, knowing full well those decisions were made outside of Christ, outside of dying to what your desires are and saying, Lord, lead me. And I think a lot of times, maybe major challenges we have could be that maybe too many of us are not taking accountability for maybe the marital situations or the spouses we might choose, the partners we may have,
Yeah.
because at the point when things are crashing, we run to God. But most times before, we don't really seek Him out to lead us in that path. And that's why I love the resource that you have, because it says before you say yes. So you may have been in a situation where you said yes before without His guidance, but before you do that again, let's just make sure that you're in a good position to be
Yeah.
able to say yes to somebody and be sure that God is the one guiding you. And so I love that. I want to ask you another question though, and that is what you think are some of the biggest lies women believe about relationships, intimacy, or their worth that keep them making unhealthy choices? What do you think is behind this? And you've had experience, as you've shared, where multiple times you've probably made unhealthy choices in relationships. What are the lies, that sometimes influence or just the lies we believe about what relationships are, should be about intimacy or even about worth?
I believe a big lie is that if he chooses me, then I'm valuable.
Mm,
Or if there's chemistry, there's
mm,
compatibility.
mm-hmm.
Like I was in a relationship with someone, we have so much chemistry, but we had no conflict resolution. The way we resolved it was to just forget it ever happened. We couldn't talk it through. So I thought the chemistry was enough, and it really wasn't enough. It really
Mm,
wasn't
mm,
enough.
mm. That's real deep because just this past weekend, I'm in Guyana right now, and this past weekend I spoke at a singles retreat. And one of the things we touched on was that chemistry. Chemistry is not equal to character. And so the
Mhm.
fact that you're attracted to somebody,
Yes,
insanely attracted to them, insanely sexually desiring them, does not mean compatibility. And it does not mean that the person has good character. And sometimes
unfortunately.
we allow that chemistry to lead us, and it leads us sadly astray. My goodness.
Yes, yes.
Wow. So that's just real deep right there. Now, something I want to ask you about as it relates to us women, um, because you said that you've had these multiple marriages, and I'm certain probably in between that you'd have had relationships that did not lead into marriage. What do you think about sometimes how women confuse loneliness with love? And how can someone tell the difference between a genuine connection and simply not wanting to be alone?
Well, loneliness feels urgent,
Okay.
and then love feels safe.
Okay, say that again.
Loneliness feels urgent,
Mm-hmm.
and love feels safe.
Okay.
Just last night when I went to bed. Now I am navigating the end of a 2-year relationship. And
Okay.
last night, I found myself feeling lonely
Mm-hmm.
and just thinking about the times when I wasn't lonely.
Mm-hmm.
And it it made me pick up that phone today. Now I've not spoken with my ex in 28 days.
You counting, girl. Sounds like you're
Yeah.
in rehab, huh? Hey, keeping yourself
28
accountable.
days. But that loneliness last night was a catalyst to me picking up that phone today because I remembered the good phone conversations. I
Mm,
remembered the good times.
mhm.
And the loneliness that definitely is a barrier to healthy recovery.
My
So
goodness.
I
Yeah.
need some backtracking.
Wow. Thank you for being that this vulnerable, right? Because I know and that's why I wanted to ask that question about loneliness and love and the difference between, what a genuine connection is versus I just don't want to be by myself. And so sometimes again, you're trying to navigate getting out of it. 28 days sober and that's because of loneliness. The final presentation I did in that singles retreat this weekend was, is it God, my feelings, or my loneliness? Because
Right.
so many times we confuse loneliness with love. It's because there is a void, there is
Mm-hmm.
something that we feel is missing, and sometimes it's because we just want to be talking to somebody of the opposite sex, and what
Yeah.
happens is that in that moment, whatever connection we're making, we may confuse it for love because it fills a particular void for us at that time. And
Right.
so I think the danger for us sometimes before we say yes is, when I get into that next relationship, was it a genuine connection? Was it something that was led by God? Was it my loneliness or my feelings leading me to think
Yes.
that I actually have a chemistry, well, connection or whatever with this person because the person is used to fill a void that I have right now.
Right
And
now.
right
I
now.
need someone right now. That feels.
Yes. And I think sometimes as women, we're afraid to admit that we have the right now desires.
Yes.
The right now I want to talk to somebody. The right now I feel like I want to be held. The right now I feel as if I want sex. The right now I feel. It's like we're so afraid to admit these right now decisions. And I think sometimes in our attempt to avoid the conversation, we find ourselves falling prey to the feelings because we're not admitting something needs attention here. I need
Yes.
to take care of it so that when it actually comes, I know how to deal with it. But if I
Exactly.
avoid it, when it comes, I might just pick up the phone and make that call
Yes.
because I have not practiced or I have not taught myself how to go through that lonely period and recognize, girl, you're good.
Yes.
It's just the moment. It's just the hormones calling, the
Mhm.
hormones speaking. A little
Exactly.
after, maybe, God is speaking in the moment. And so we want to keep that real. So I want to talk about your resource, okay? Your
Hmm.
resource before you say yes again. I want us to talk about your resource before you say yes again. Been there, done that, and you have a desire to do differently, right? So
Right.
your resource is not just about saying no, it's really about becoming healthy enough to say yes to the right things.
Yeah.
So, what does that healthy woman look like?
Well, it looks like not giving access to your heart, your body, and your time or your future to someone who has not demonstrated alignment with your morals and your values.
So let's unpack it a bit. Let's unpack it. I don't want the Miss Universe response. I want us to unpack that response so that the women can actually understand exactly what you're saying. What does a healthy woman look like when she learns not just to say no, but becoming healthy enough to say yes, but to the right stuff? Let's unpack that.
Well, first of all, being comfortable being by yourself, taking care of yourself
Mm-hmm.
without assistance outside of God, being
Okay.
comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you start.
Okay.
Um, Also, and that starts with a mindset change. Culture will have you believe, well, if I'm in a relationship with someone, I have to do A, B, and C sexually. But
Mm-hmm.
that does not have to be the case. There are healthy relationships. I'm a part of a group of abstinent Christian believers who are abstaining that are in healthy relationships. So
Mm-hmm.
that is not a determinant factor of a healthy relationship being intimate.
Okay.
Also, um, having a foundation in the Word of God,
Mm-hmm.
and not allowing someone to pull you away from that, away from what you know to be true.
Okay. All right. So yeah. So a healthy woman will be comfortable with herself. Yeah.
Yes.
She will be familiarizing herself with the word of God and so on.
Yes.
Right?
And being
Okay.
acceptable of others' journey
Okay.
that may
So
not be where she is.
right. So basically, it's recognizing that we may all be in a category where we want to choose or we want to be chosen again, or we want a spouse, however we want to put it. But some folks in that journey may be where, they could be abstinent without any issues because maybe they've made a decision,
Mhm.
whereas others are struggling at that same time to give up some of those feelings and desires. By the way, should we be giving up the feelings that we have, sexual feelings that we have, or should we be finding tools to manage them?
Oh
What?
no, we love those feelings over here.
Yes.
We're not asking God to take them away.
Yes, ma'am.
It's God given,
Hmm.
but in the right context.
Right.
That's why you have them, and that's why the urges are so strong,
Hmm.
especially being previously enjoying uh,
Mm.
relationships. Um, what's the word I'm trying to guilt-free relationships.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
it's very difficult because they will tell you, "Oh, don't stay in that relationship with that man that is doing A, Y, and Z to you, being married, leave your marriage, and then what?" Because those feelings do not go away, and there are vultures out there waiting for you to
Hmm.
slip up. So you gotta think about those aspects because those feelings do not go away just because you do.
Hmm. Yeah, so that's a thing. And I love how you say, no, we love those things over here because I believe in our last Let's Talk, we're talking about, sex and just the reality of it and the fact that it's a gift from God because so many view it as if it is a sin. But
No.
it is a gift from
Yeah.
God. And it means if it's a gift from God, it's something that should be wholly embraced. Others have views that it is just for, recently
Okay.
met someone who said that their husband would not have sexual relationship with them. He says, except in the instance for procreation. So they've made 3 kids
Wow.
and that's it. There's no, he said, like it's not for anything else but that. And so we have individuals with very different views. I'm tempted to say warped views, but I shouldn't be judging anybody, but different views. And some believe that it's a sin, some believe that it's just for procreation only. But from my understanding, it's supposed to be a gift. That gift will produce other gifts like children, procreation. But I
Yes.
believe that God gave us the gift for pleasure. It's about how we now manage ourselves and how we derive that pleasure that might be what we need to be maintaining.
Yeah.
It's like we have a knife, you could stab somebody with it, or you can cut a fruit with it, cut bread with it, and share. So, how do we manage that? I think is so important. Now, we're transitioning a little bit in our convo, and I want to ask you something about how women manage certain things. And many women watching may have experienced heartbreak. Some experience divorce, betrayal, or disappointment. What would you say? Just today, someone reached out to me saying to me, after almost 40 years of marriage, my husband submitted divorce papers last week. Um, and that that's a little heartbreaking for her. And there are many women who are watching who may have experienced some type of heartbreak, who may have experienced a divorce or going through a divorce right now or some type of betrayal or disappointment. What would you say to the woman who feels it's too late for her to start over? You know, we're talking about before you say yes again. Some might feel, you know what, I been there, done that. 3 decades, 4 decades of a marriage, maybe even, a younger marriage, but they may feel as if, it's too late for me to start over. What would you say to that woman?
Well, the heartbreak may have ended the chapter, but it's never too late to start over, to feel renewed, to the divorce did not devalue any woman. Um, I would advise to pick up the pieces, find yourself again, because we do lose ourselves
Mm-hmm,
in the
mm-hmm.
marriage. Definitely find you again,
And you again.
love on you again, and allow God to open your eyes to new adventures that
Mm.
you didn't experience before within your marriage or being in motherhood.
Yeah, that's so critical. So critical. Thanks for saying that because, again, beneath the women last night is just the fact that so many women lose themselves just doing for everybody else and they forget what it's like to dream. To
Yes.
have a dream, to have a goal, and to go for it because there's just spending time, going for other people's dreams, supporting other people's dreams, etc. And so sometimes by the time a marriage might be over, they're like, who am I? Like, why am I here? Because I
Exactly.
remember meeting a lady who was married for 47 years and her spouse passed away. And she was like, why am I here? I was with my husband. We did everything together. We traveled the world together. I supported his ministry. And now that he's gone, I don't even know what I'm doing here. And
Yes.
so many of these sometimes women feel as if they have nothing else to do because they probably didn't even realize they were here for a greater purpose. They just thought their purpose was to support somebody else's. And now maybe sometimes these women may not choose to say yes again because it's like, I don't know, something is lost there. So you're saying take some time to really uncover you, do things that you like. Try
Yes.
to enjoy life again.
Yes. And find your triggers that will separate you from God. Like you have to know them to avoid them.
Mm-hmm.
Know your likes and know your dislikes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So when we know our likes and our dislikes, you're saying that is going to help us to maybe have a desire to start over again?
Yes. To find to find something new and exciting about you.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because I think a lot of women might think it's silly to start over, really, especially after you've given so much of yourself. I think sometimes maybe women might feel broken. Like you said, they may feel invaluable because it's like you've given so much to everybody else and you have forsaken yourself for so long. You
Mm,
don't know what it's like to
right.
actually love on you. You don't know
Mhm.
what it's like to actually put you first because you've been putting others first for so long. I think that might be a really treacherous journey for some, maybe a very hard journey for some, because it's like it's rediscovering yourself
Yeah.
in a very different time period. Because
Mhm.
just
And
imagine
there's
being,
no rush.
yeah, well, that's a good point. Because imagine if you're married for like 30, 40 years, and now you need to go on the journey of finding you again. Some of what you might find might scare you because it's like you don't even know where to begin. And so your resource may be a very good resource to help these women in finding themselves again, right? I appreciate
I
that work. And that will help us segue into what I really wanted to go next if you're talking about healing, because I would love if you can give our women like one practical step they can take to begin today, to begin that healing process today before entering another relationship. Because what I find is that if we don't take time to heal before we say yes again, we may bring our baggage our dysfunction and all of that stuff into another relationship. So, what's one practical step you took that you can help other women in processing, or maybe saying this is something that I can take before they enter another relationship?
Um, what Tell yourself the truth. That is a first step. Um, Write down the things about yourself that you ignored. You may even bring back to memory some likes from childhood that you
Mm,
totally
mm,
forgot that you enjoyed.
mhm,
Um, and write down what you really need, what you felt you missed by
wow.
letting yourself go, taking care of others.
Mhm.
Like really find yourself.
Yeah. I really like that step. I think it's such an important one. In just like maybe it will help women to dream again. It will help women to maybe set goals again, begin to feel alive again. And sadly, in relationships, sometimes we do that involuntarily, but for the most part, many of us willingly do it, forget our dreams, put our dreams on hold, that kind of a thing. And so maybe that's a really good step for women to just take a step back and just love on you. What does that look like? Doing some self-care, but modern self-care is the kind of mental self-care where you begin to, again, like I love how you mentioned maybe dreams that they had, because many put dreams on hold, and maybe saying, and sometimes I think women may think it's too late, but I tend to want to believe that if you are alive, that there is hope. If you're alive, it means that there's still purpose for you. If you're alive, it means God still has a plan. And sometimes even a broken relationship, or even you being in a position where you're wondering if you're going to say yes again, is a good place for women to begin to rebuild themselves, to begin to really focus on their purpose, to begin to focus on how can I use what I've been through to help other women navigate life and relationships. Like you're doing right now, you're using your experience of having four marriages and broken relationships to help you to empower others. And honestly, I really look forward to how much more work you are going to do while you're there receiving. There's so much that you have to give to women with your realness, the real talk, with your real life experiences on what they can do, and also your honesty about, hey, yes, I've been to four marriages, they failed. I'm just come out of a 2-year relationship, but guess what? I still desire to say yes again because I don't want my sexual desires to die. God gave it to me, He gifted it to me. How do I find myself in a healthy situation? Right? And I really do love that. Now, we've touched on a lot. The last time we met, we did, I think it was more spicy in terms of the maybe the questions I asked and even the spontaneity of what we discussed. But if women, or if a woman only remembered one thing from what we've spoken about tonight in our convo, what would you hope it would be for her?
To find out what her yes means to her and
Okay.
to value that yes is sacred and it needs to be guarded. You don't have to say yes to everything. And then don't allow someone to shame you for the yeses that
Mm,
you gave in the past.
wow. Okay. Say that one again.
Do not allow anyone to shame you for the yeses you gave in the past.
So, in other words, ladies, if we messed up before, that does not mean we have to continue to mess up.
Exactly.
Wow. That's deep.
And it's going to be, I have found it difficult to change my pattern. So I had to reach out to my accountability group so that they can check me.
Yes.
Hold me accountable for where I want my life to go.
Mm-hmm.
Just like we go to God and say, God, you said. I have friends that said, Montoya, you said, but you
Mm-hmm.
are not doing.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely guard your yes.
So that's deep stuff there. Why? Because that's another practical step. It's ensuring that we're surrounded by folks who can hold us accountable to where we desire to go. So you said you don't want to do this anymore. What are you
Right.
doing, girl? You know? Um, and I can imagine that sometimes, as you said, maybe you're a bit stubborn, how challenging that could be when you really want to do what you want to do. And then you have folks saying in your ears, but you said, Montoya, you said.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and I think, honestly, we sometimes underestimate the power of having someone to be accountable to because I remember friends saying to me, I'm always hearing you speaking in my ear and I'm thinking of you. And the mere fact that I'm not sharing this with you is because I know I'm wrong. And so I think that accountability is really amazing because having somebody we can just tell the whole truth, yo, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I want to do. And the person
Exactly.
can say, okay, Nadine, I understand your hormones are on fire.
Mm,
Hello. But sis, keep it close. We
yes,
need the realness because too many of us find ourselves falling prey to not even wanting to do stuff, saying yes to people because we're kind of forced in a sense to say yes to them. We don't even want to do it. And sometimes as women, I think we say yes to people because we don't want to reject them, but then we're rejecting ourselves. We're
exactly.
rejecting our own boundaries so that we don't hurt somebody else.
Right.
And I think having accountability and someone speaking the truth to you to say, hey, listen, you cannot say yes at your own expense.
Exactly.
You're saying yes because you don't want it, but you don't want him to feel rejected. But you just rejected you
Yes.
in a sense. Why? Because that's not what you want to do, boo. That's
Right.
not what you want to do. And so I think this is a needed necessary, relevant kind of conversation that does not need to happen every once in a while, but something that you need to continue to sit and just speak to,
Yes.
using your platforms to really speak to us women, because so many are struggling. We even within marriages. With the yes, and how do I say yes and how do I say no? Because again, as you mentioned earlier, it's not always just about sex. It's not
Right.
always just about the relationship. Sometimes it's the everyday decisions that we're making of us saying yes and yes and yes to everything and everybody, and we're saying no to ourselves at the same time. So I want you to talk to us about where women can get your free resource before you say yes again, and how can they continue this journey with you.
Well, I'm so glad you asked. I have a website, before you say yes again.com. You can go to the website, review, upload, download the guide, and it will also give you a link to my Facebook group where we are going to come together to share our trials with getting healthy,
Mhm,
changing our mindset. We're going
mhm,
to be open, we're going to be honest, we're going to be vulnerable, and we are not going to shame anyone.
mhm.
That is not allowed. Shame is not allowed.
Yes, yes. So I guess you ladies heard, and we will drop that link for you in the chat here on YouTube. But listen, you want to go to before you say yes again.com. You want to download that free guide. And the next thing you're going to do is to join that Facebook community before you say yes again. If you're struggling in any area of your life, especially when it comes to relationships and sex and sexuality and all that stuff, before you say yes again, is the community that you want to actually join. You want to be in that community because that's where Montoya is going to do her greatest work. Because we don't want it to be something that's just open there for everybody. We want to make it an exclusive community. Why? Because she wants to make it a safe community where you can feel safe and secure in sharing without judgment. Like she said, No shame in the game because sex is a gift. Now, the thing is, Montoya, as as someone who coaches women every day, one of the things I've noticed is that many women struggle to use their voice long before they struggle in relationships.
Mhm.
So sometimes we think it's the relationship that's causing the problem. But if we do the background work, we realize even before the relationship, I was already struggling to say yes or to say no. And so, why do you think learning to value your voice is such an important part of learning to value yourself?
Because sometimes, oftentimes, silence is where we cause injury to
Mm,
ourselves.
okay.
We hold it in, thinking that it's not going to be understood,
Mm,
thinking that, well, if I just hold my peace, um, it will improve itself on its own. And a lot of times that's not the case.
mm-hmm,
We need to give power to our voice
mm-hmm,
and power to the voices of others.
mm. Yeah, and thanks for sharing that. Yeah, because I find that a lot of times when we think, the relationship does something, if we really do the work, we'll realize that a lot of what we're struggling with, even within relationships, to say yes and to say no to, if we look back in our background, somewhere along the line, we had that struggle. It's there.
Hmm.
And so we want to be able to help women. And that's why I'm so excited to work with you and all of the women that I work with in the speaker program and different speaking programs. Why? Because I think if we're able to give voice to what we're struggling for, what we're going through, we will be empowered as we empower others. And so I love the work that you do. I love the boldness with which you've embraced a call to speak to women as it relates to sexual wellness, because so many of us, too many of us walking around struggling with our sex desires, thinking that we're sinful, been made to feel that we're sinful because of it. And many of us are still struggling in silence with it, making decisions sometimes daily or monthly, or however much we fall when it is because we're not accountable to anybody, and then begin to start over the cycle of just feeling guilty again and feeling all kinds of things again that prevents us from going to God to say, hey, Lord, you gave me these feelings. Thank you so much. Teach me how to manage it. Guide me into a
Mhm.
safe place, as in the Before You Say Yes community on Facebook that, ladies, you need to join, right? And that guide that you need to download on beforeyousayesagain.com, so that you could have the tools, the resources, the community, the sisterhood, the friendship to keep you accountable before you say yes again to another relationship. And so, Montoya, do you have any final words for our audience tonight?
Well, I will say that this is not a brand, this is a movement. Come join us so that we can heal together.
Amen. Montoya, thank you so much for sharing your heart with us tonight. Thank you for creating a resource that will help women think differently, choose differently, and move forward with greater clarity. And to everyone who joined us tonight, or to everyone who will watch the replay on YouTube, and even probably when we drop this in our Facebook groups or pages, thank you for spending this time with us. Thank you for downloading the guide Before You Say Yes Again. Go to beforeyousayesagain.com. Thank you for joining the community where you're going to be safe to feel what you're feeling and make decisions to help you that are not based on what you're feeling. Okay. And remember, before you say yes to anyone else, make sure you first say yes to yourself, to your healing, to your growth, and the woman God is calling you to become. Good
Amen.
night,
Good night,
everyone.
everyone. Thank you for having me. Take care.
Yes,
See you
yes.
soon.